Subscribe to LearnCab and hit the bell icon to get notified.
Hello everyone. Good evening. Am I audible to all of you? I'm Rashmi from LearnCab. I will be the host for this webinar. Students, do you have phobia from SFM? You also search for the logic behind the formulas but not able to find the satisfying answer? Are you not able to memorize the formulas and retain the concepts for long? Don't fear, Lijil sir is here. I would like to welcome CA Lijil Lakshman sir, who will be conducting this webinar today. CA Lijil Lakshman sir is a fellow chartered accountant based out of Kochi, Kerala, with diverse teaching experience. His journey as a teacher has taken him to multiple locations and academies in South India, having taught more than 5,000 plus students. He is well known in the teaching circles of Kerala. He is also an All India first rank holder in finance and accounts for the Certified Associate from Indian Institute of Banking exam. He is also a co-opted member of the Corporate Governance Committee of SIRC of ICAI. Today, Lijil sir will guide you on the structure of the paper and give you some interesting tips and tricks. And will give you some magical recipe to cover the entire syllabus a day before the exam.
Thank you, Rashmi, and thank you for that wonderful introduction that you have given about both SFM as well as about me. I'm delighted to be here on a fine Sunday evening with all of you and to discuss about SFM and CA examinations in general. So I would like to start our discussion by telling you what I will be precisely covering in the next one and a half hours time that has been allotted to us. Also, I would like to highlight you that this is not just a one-time event that is happening on the go, and where we thought, okay, maybe we should go and talk to our students on a live mode and then try to give them a little more extra tips. It's not that way. We have planned, like Rashmi was pointing out, we have planned an entire recipe for a meal, which means that we are coming up with a series of live webinars where you can interact with the faculties and then learn each and every aspect of not just SFM, all the subjects. You would have already got the news from LearnCab relating to that. So today, I will be trying to walk you through in two phases. When I say two phases, what I mean is that, see, I cannot directly jump onto SFM unless I talk CA final exams in general, how you should approach. Because as I see, there could be different set of students who would be attending this session today. There could be people who are attempting their examination for the first time. There could be students who had written the examination previously and would be thinking, okay, maybe I should, my examination, particularly SFM, was not very good in the November 2020 attempt. And probably I should know what strategy I should take it up for the May 2021 examination. There could be people who could be the ones who had opted out of this November 2020 examination when that vacuum was given by ICAI. So I can see that there are a lot of set of students who could be attending this particular session. So I would like to address each one of you in general as well as in specific. So today I will be talking about, like, I spent about 30 minutes or so on giving you an understanding, or maybe my opinion, I would like to call it my opinion, on how one should be approaching CA final examination in general. And I would be telling that there are a lot of myths that you hear on a daily basis about CA examination. And probably when you're sitting with the books to study, there could be a lot of things that comes into your mind and then not allowing you to get into your full focus and your full ability. So what are the things that I can actually add to a value to your study preparation? And I would like to specifically quote May 2021 examination per se. And that would give you an overall idea as well as an idea on how to approach a paper which is in practical numerical questions comes in the examination. How do you go and approach those? Then I would like to take specifically to strategic financial management and what I think should be done for this particular paper to ensure that you try to master that particular paper. And we would try to have a discussion on how May 2021 examination per se for SFM you should be looking at, and what should be the approach in which you should be preparing. How can we collectively, I'm not saying that I should be a reviewer and I talk and then you do the things. Let's try to understand each other collectively and then try to create a specific plan for you, which you should be able to do at the end of this particular session by analyzing what are the positives that you have and what could be the correct methodology that you should adopt for your examination. I was talking in the beginning. I would like to tell you that we have a series of lectures that's coming in, and I would tell you how the plans are going to function and on that aspect. And at the end of this particular session, we would be interacting and I would be taking up your questions on how the preparation of SFM should be like. If you have any specific, after you listen to me and talk. Okay, so let's start with, let me give you my set of answers for cracking CA final examination. I used to call it as 5 P's for your success. And I consider that whatever may be the paper that you are approaching towards, these 5 P's would be very, very important for your success. And this I'm talking about CA exams in general. Okay. So what are these 5 P's that I consider that you should all be ensuring that you have those when you're going ahead with preparation? Okay, so preparation comes with both practice as well as the mindset. So as far as I'm concerned, when somebody is trying to prepare for CA final examination, probably you should think it in that way that in their entire life, the examination that they're going to write next, that's a CA final examination, that must have been, I don't know whether you have written a more tough, more fancy examination before or better than CA final, but most of you, like 99% of you, CA final examination is going to be the best examination or the most challenging examination in your entire lifetime. So for me, I have written so many examinations even after finishing CA, but still I consider CA final examination, to my mindset, that's where I have given heart and soul and everything. So that is something that you will have to first think that, okay, this is the examination that's going to change my life. So should I be just taking casual, or should I be ensuring that I take all the best of measures for this particular examination? That's where my 5 P's would become very relevant to all of you. Now let's look at the first one. So I know you're reading passion, and you must be now thinking that, come on, man, everybody talks about passion. Everybody says that, okay, yeah, you need to have passion in your life. Now, when I say passion, I'm trying to be very specific here. When I say that you need to have passion in a subject, say, for example, when you're preparing for CA final, I know that some of you would be really fond of certain paper, and I would be really glad when I hear that some of you would love to listen to SFM. See, I personally would love to listen to finance. It makes a lot of sense for me to listen to finance. So some of you, it could be for auditing. For some of you, it could be for accountancy. The FR paper comes just like that for you. And for some of you, it could be corporate law. I find it very interesting. But what I'm trying to tell you is that when you are writing CA final examination, you need to ensure that you develop that interest in all set of papers. How do you develop interest all in a while? Because there could be people who are very good with theory. There could be people who are not so good with theory, but they're very good with practical. The number comes to them just like that. So how do you ensure that you create a minimum level of passion and interest in all the papers? It is possible. It is possible, believe me, guys, because it is not a random number of subjects that is being picked up and then put into one bucket and asking you to clear those. There is specific reason why they are putting all these particular papers, because they know that a qualified chartered accountant would be going through all these at some point or the other in their life. They should be having some minimum level of interest in all of this. Otherwise, what happens is that unless we develop that interest in any paper, we would start approaching CA final mechanically for certain subject. I've seen it, if you take the all syllabus, I could actually tell you about the all syllabus. If some of you are from all syllabus, then your ISCA paper and information system control audit paper used to be mechanical for many. Because that paper used to have so much in theory and then people never connected to them in deep. So there also you need to ensure that you develop some kind of an interest in what you read, what you try to understand. So the beginning, Rashmi was giving you the big, the $1 million question in your strategic financial management paper, which is, how do I remember the formula? How do I remember all these formulas into your head? Because all of this comes with some logic, some basic assumptions. Somebody had put heart and soul into it to develop these, and they're trying to communicate something to you. So when you wanted to approach SFM, you should be someone who should be trying to slowly get an understanding on finance. You should be someone who's slowly trying to peek into what is happening in the stock market. And you slowly try to, maybe, if you're still on your articleship and you're casually starting your preparation, maybe you should start liking more pages of finances on Instagram. So probably you should start, receiving little more newsletters on, on finance-related matters. Maybe you should flip more pages on your economic times. So that's when you slightly get interest. Or probably you should go and watch some movies which talks about Wall Street or the Dalal Street. So probably you will start having a little bit of interest in these papers. So if you're learning any other subject, say for example, if you're learning auditing, already you would have heard that you should slowly look into a couple of audit reports. Then you would know that okay, there is some curiosity. So curiosity is the basis of passion, and curiosity is a mindset. So you have to be curious on whatever that you're trying to learn here. You have to be curious, like what could be the impact of this, which industry might be using this, what kind of money people would make by learning this. All these has to be thought through, and all of you should ensure that when you're approaching SFM, the fundamental for me to approach SFM is that you should develop interest in the concept of financial management, be it on the investment angle, be it on the financial management angle, or be it on the world of finance total basis. You should start getting some extra interest so that you will try to understand it one step ahead, not just as a formula. Okay, so it's very important that you go ahead and start with the first P, which is to develop passion or interest. Second one, meticulous planning. I always believe that preparation is a scientific process. So when I say scientific process, I mean, of course, just because somebody had the best plan in the world does not ensure them CA final qualifications with 100% surety. Nobody, not if you go to all India first time holder and then ask, I have had that particular chance, and I had a friend who was going to score a rank, and I went on and asked him like, what do you think the examination is? Do you think you would clear the examination? And he told me that, no, I don't think I'll clear the examination. I'm not confident. I mean, the result came out, he has a rank. So that's how CA final examinations are at times. So we cannot ensure that, okay, just because you had a plan, you will be 100% clearing. But having no plan and having a plan is going to make a huge difference in your level of preparation, because preparation is time bounded activity. So in the world when things are time bounded, anything is possible. It's the question of right strategy that you have. So ensure that whenever you're having the mindset to prepare, be it like, okay, be your examination coming in 6 months time, or maybe your examination will be coming in a year time, or maybe an examination is happening in 2022. I don't really think you need to bother anything, because your plan is mandatory in all the cases. You should not say that, okay, my exam comes on only after some time. Why should I plan solely? No, you need to have a plan. Because only when you have plan, there are two reasons why I'm saying there should be a plan. Because one thing for sure, the plan makes your actions more delicate. It ensures that you're focused and you're going to cover it. Second thing, it reduces anxiety. And with pandemic coming in, with a lot of problems that's going around all of us, we had so many of them. Like my dear most students, they took time to reach out to me and say that, sir, things are not working for me. I am opting out, because they did not opt out because they did not prepare. They opted out because they could not handle the pressure of this particular examination moving here and there. How do you reduce the pressure? But the pressure can be reduced only when you see what is going to happen in the future. So anxiety comes with uncertainty, and uncertainty can be reduced to a minimum level when you have a solid plan laid out. And I know that there are a lot of people who are going to make a plan in their mind just like that. They'll say that, okay, maybe I'll finish everything by February end. Then March, I'll do a revision. April, I'll write model exam. May, my examination comes. No, guys, that's not the plan that I'm talking here. You need to ensure that you have a plan which is written out there. You should ensure that you take a piece of paper, or maybe you take, if you're so computer savvy, you make a plan in your computer. That's okay. But don't go too tech savvy and don't make an Excel model on planning. And I've seen students who have done that. They've sent across an Excel model on planning. I said, are you really looking into this Excel after you make the plan? They said, no. I just like making Excel models on plan. So I said, no, that's not what is required. Maybe just a piece of paper. I personally, when I was preparing, I used to maintain a preparation book. I used to call it as a preparation book, wherein I used to write down what is my plan for a specific week. I used to write down, I used to have a global plan, and then I had cut down into smaller plans, and I used to say that what I should be probably doing in the next 10 days, or maybe I should be doing at least today. What is that I should start studying? You cannot be randomly reading something on a specific day and then think that you have studied. See, for me, reading is different from learning. Okay, so we will talk about that particularly to SFM soon. But then for the time being, I wanted to tell you that planning is very important. Okay, so ensure that you plan on a piece of paper. You need to have a specific written down plan. You know why I insist on people having a written down plan? Because only when you write down your plan, only when you put that on the piece of paper, you are committing to yourself. There is no doubt all of you want success in your life. Okay, there is nobody contesting on that. So once you've committed yourself that okay, you want the best for yourself, then you should have the guts to ensure that you write down the plan, and when you look at it, okay, you've already committed that you wanted to finish this particular chapter by end of this particular week, and then you look into that, you did not finish it off, then you will feel that okay, you will feel that pinch of salt, and you should say okay, maybe I should change my plan, I should do an extra hour to complete it. So that gives you direction. And of course, just having plan is not sufficient. You need to practice, especially when it comes to papers like SFM. And I see in a lot of cases, and especially I see this particular problem after the online classes become more popular, because many people see, I have nothing to say negative about the platforms like YouTube, but then it's an amazing platform. You learn a lot of things. You can learn everything under the sun nowadays with internet. But then many people, by mistake, they think that watching YouTube videos is preparing for examination. Believe me, guys, that's not the way. That's not the way things work. Unless you practice, unless you put it on a piece of paper, you start working out a question, you will not be learning things. There I say, studying or spending time is not equal to learning. So when you are approaching something, especially papers like SFM, which has a lot of concepts on each of the chapters, you should ensure that you take out model examinations and then you work it out. And more number of questions you work out, more confident you will become about the examination, because the number of surprises can be reduced. Okay, I'll specifically talk about how you should look into each chapter weightage wise very soon. But then I would like to specifically tell you that if you are someone who had written the examination in one previous attempt, or one or more previous attempts, and then you could not clear this particular paper, then I can easily tell you a strategy that you have to ensure. See, when you look at SFM as a paper, you know that it has 80% of the questions that is being tested are numerical questions. And if you take a total sum of questions that is available with you, okay, let's take an example. This is a vague number that I'm taking. Say, if you're in new syllabus and those practice manual, the all syllabus practice manual questions that are applicable for new syllabus, if that's about 300 questions, and you have learned how to solve all these 300 questions for the previous exam, and if you could not clear that previous examination and you're going for the next exam, ensure that you do 100 more questions. Now, you cannot go with the same set of preparation for another examination. You should ensure that you do little extra, because that's how I ensure that, see, when you practice more, your results is generally going to be better, right? So you should ensure that you do extra set of preparations for your next examination. So if you have written already examination, you should ensure that okay, you should have an overall idea how many questions I have in this particular chapter. Okay, so I have 14 chapters with me. Okay, so on an average, each chapter has about 10 questions or 15 questions. Okay, so I have 200 questions, which are very important. And I have additional questions available from RTP, MTP, and other materials that I'm in possession of. And I have additional questions that is from my faculty notes. So total number of questions is this. I have worked out this question. I'm going to add more number of questions to it. So it's very important that you do practice. Do not think that having watched 1 hour videos is going to be sufficient. for you to appear in the examination. That might be sufficient for you to get the concept behind it. But then when you are putting out, so it's examination is also a time-bound process. You should ensure that you are at the best in that 3 hours. And it takes meticulous planning for you to be in that situation of 3 hours and then get that experience again and again. Now, you think about somebody who's into sprint, okay, maybe 100-meter sprint. And what would be the most important thing that they'll be thinking of? Would they be just keep running marathon? No, they would always try to get the sprint again and again because they wanted to ensure that they start and finish. They want to save that 1 second from starting. They wanted to ensure that they finish 1 second early so that they beat the opponent. So examinations like that, you know that the 3 hours is going to sum up all the preparations that you had for so long. So how do you ensure that that 3 hours is your best? By experiencing that 3 hours a lot. So when I say practice includes a model examination. Next is patience. So you will have to go ahead and then prepare for an examination which is going to come in probably 4 months time. If you take May examination, it comes in 4 months time. And we are a generation, I'm including myself into that, okay? We are a generation which craves for instant gratification. And you are going to have an examination, you're going to, all the gratification, all the feedback of your efforts is going to happen after 5 6 months. It's a long time, my dear friends. And a lot of students have this problem that they start well, their preparation graph is almost like diminishing marginal utility curve. It goes up, then it comes down. It looks like a giant mountain. So they're fresh. Maybe they attended a webinar and then they're really motivated, and then they immediately go ahead and then say that yes, I wanted to make a plan. I'm going to practice. Okay, maybe let me hit 12 hours, 14 hours a day, and then they started preparing. After 2 days, probably the regular boredom strike them, and they said, okay, probably I can take a day off. Need to prepare so hard every day. Then the graph come down. Then they never pick it up from there. So you need not have that kind of a superb graph always. You need to understand that you need to continue running. Like probably you will have a bad day. I personally had bad days when I was preparing, and I'm going to talk about how I prepared for the examinations as well. And you have to ensure that that is part of this particular preparation. I would like to tell you and insist you to understand this, that this is how the examinations are. When you are approaching a very big examination, you will have stress, you will have bad days. That's how human brain works. But the difference would be that how fast you are coming out of it. If you're coming out immediately, then ensure that, okay, you're doing wonderfully well and you're going to continue the same pace. That's where the important part lies. So you need to have patience. You need to continuously do this thing. We used to call it as, I'm going to add another word into it. The last P in our CA final success journey is perseverance, or you can add another beautiful word called grit. And I was conducting a series of lectures on my YouTube channel for November 2020 examination, considering of multiple opt-out, postponement, and all the students were going, really down with their mental health. They had huge lack of focus and a lot of problem. And most important point that I've noticed with some of them, and I would like to really, really, really respect them, and I'm really proud of those students. Even after all that was happening around them, they really took that efforts. They really, and that's what I feel about all of you who are attending the webinar today also. See, it's a fine Sunday. You probably can think that, this particular webinar would be sometimes be recorded, or maybe I can ask my friend like how it was and things like that. But then there is something inside you which says that, no, I wanted to take that one extra step. Maybe that little extra thing. Maybe I would get that 5 minutes out of this particular entire 1.5 hours lectures, which could be useful for me. But I still wanted to take that extra efforts and then ensure that I show that grit, that I don't want to give up on things. I wanted to fight it out. Okay, so if you are someone who has failed in an examination, I would like to tell you that there is nothing more valuable than the lesson that is going to be learned by failure. Only when this lesson comes only when you don't give up and then you get back from that failure and then fight it out again. You think about it. So you are someone who had a setback in your life. Two options people have. One set of people quit. Another set of people say that, okay, that's a feedback. So, like the fancy the film words which says, like, there is no end unless I really stop. Like our MS Dhoni, our MSD had rightly said, unless you put a full stop at the end of the sentence, it is not the real end, my friend. So you have made sure that you get up from a failure and then fight back, and that what that shows in your life. Whatever failure that is going to come in the future, you're going to fight in the same sense, and that's going to be a life-changing incident for you. Only when you show perseverance. Okay, so when I'm saying that failure, I do not always mean failure in the examination. I mean that, see, you could commit on a plan today and then you could fail. Two things are there. You can think that it's not going to be possible for me, or you can get back from there that moment. Say maybe you did not study for 2 hours, or you did not study for the entire session. Okay, the entire afternoon, entire morning, you did not study. Two options. You can carry forward that frustration on you to the next afternoon or the next day or the next week. Say that I did not study yesterday, so I don't have a mood to study today. Or you can accept that failure. Yes, I'm a human being. I might have made mistakes, and that day was a mistake, and I'm going to learn from that mistake. I'm going to change it. So that perseverance is going to be the huge differentiator for anybody who's writing CA final examination. So ensure that you pick that thing in your mindset. So unless you create that mindset for the examination, so I want you to have all these 5 P's inside your head for the entire examination when you're going ahead and then writing your May 2020 examination. You should think about these 5 P's and then approach any paper as such, especially strategic financial management. Let me quickly break. There are certain myths that I have heard about CA final examination, especially SFM is being one of those papers which comes with a set of myth. Okay, this is my favorite one. Why I say this is my favorite one? Because I have had friends when I was preparing. See, I cleared out my CA final examination in 2014. That's like 6-7 years back. So when I was preparing for CA final examination in 2014, my friend, I met him. I met a very close friend of mine. I met him, and he was preparing for examination. I was surprised to see me. He was a very handsome guy, a handsome gentleman. He took the examination holidays and he was preparing. And I saw a guy who had grown a lot of beard. Okay, I do have beard. I'm saying by then he had grown a lot of beard, which was not even shaved, and I felt like he did not take bath for the last 3 months probably in the entire examination preparation. He was looking nasty, and he came to me and said like, "This is how you should approach the examination. You should prepare 14 hours to 16 hours." I was shocked because I had never prepared for 14 to 16 hours a day. For me, there's 24 hours in a day. You need to sleep for 5 to 6 hours at least, right? Then you have like 18 hours. Then in that only 2 hours you get to eat, you get to take bath. Okay, probably that's the reason he's not taking bath. So there are people who are telling like this. Believe me, I had tried in my CA file preparation something like this, which was so stupid. I'll tell you the story. Myself and a friend of mine, we were staying in a flat. We decided. See, I'm a first attempter. Okay, from all my levels of CA, and believe me, I wanted to vouch that because when I say you should know that, okay, whether he really did it, yes, I did it. I wanted to tell you that few things that I did correct was after making a mistake, and one of them was committing the number of hours in a day. Myself and a friend of mine, we were preparing together, not combined study. We wanted to go out of our house and take a separate place because we wanted to be secluded, and then we wanted to show that yes, we are committed. We wanted to show focus in this entire preparation. So we rented out an apartment, and then we were staying there. We used to stay in different rooms, and then we used to meet for lunch and breakfast and things like that. So we prepared a plan. We put it on our rooms, and our initial plan was that okay, we will study for 13 hours per day. Yeah, 13 hours per day. It's 1 hour less, but then yeah, we had a good plan. 13 hours per day. What do you think? 13 hours per day. In 10 days, like you cover 130 hours. 100 days, you're 1,300 hours. How beautiful, 1,300 hours in 100 days. Like wonderful plan. So first day we started studying, and my friend was very fancy. He had a stopwatch. Back then. Okay, 2014, it was not very fancy to use a mobile phone next to you, so he had a stopwatch. So he kept the stopwatch as and when he studies. Very nice. So in the evening, after the studies were finished, we met in the hall. We thought, okay, maybe we'll go for a tea. So in the evening, we were going for a tea, and then I asked him like, "How was your preparation? The first day, okay?" So he said, "Yeah, preparation is good, but not the hours is not working really fine for me." Then he showed me like, "Okay, how many hours you have studied?" And he showed me his stopwatch. He said, "Lijil, I have studied 10 hour 30 minutes." I was like, "What?" The sad part of preparing with your friend is that you always wanted to compete, right? You wanted like do 1 minute extra, you'll be the happiest guy. Probably somebody else would be doing 10 hours extra than you, but still you beat your friend. That's glory for you. So I was thinking that the next day I'm going to have a stopwatch. I'm going to beat this particular guy. I'm going to do 13 hours continuously. So I was preparing. I was looking into the stopwatch. It is running. I'm very happy. While eating also, I brought food to my table, and I'm reading something, and I'm still watching. I'm reading something, and I'm still eating, so that my clock still says that I'm studying. So I want to increase the hours. By the end of the day, I did not have 13 hours, but I had 11 hours of time. 11 hours in a day, guys. You think about it, how beautiful that is. So I had 11 hours of my time. And then I went to my friend. I told him, like, look, man, I have 11 hours of my time. Then he came up and asked, like, okay, very nice. And I was like, how much hours you have? He said some hours, okay, but I don't remember exactly, but it was less than mine, like would be 10 hours, 30 minutes again. I was like super happy. But then right before I sleep, I sat down and then I started introspecting. I started thinking, what did I do throughout the day? What are the topics that I have covered? I really wanted to get a sense of what basically I did throughout the day. Believe me, guys, whatever I had covered in the previous day, where I would have given a very, very less number of hours, should have been much, much better than the day where I have covered in my stopwatch 11 hours. So, what I'm trying to tell you here is that it has nothing to do with your success, has nothing to do with how many hours you sit. It has only to do with how many hours effectively you study. Because most of the time I was looking into the stopwatch because that was the only success, driving factor that I had for that particular day. So probably that was the only day where I have counted my number of hours and then studied. From there, I have moved into targeting portions to cover. See, we all know that, okay, probably if you have 10 questions to solve, it's going to take, if the questions are very big, it's going to take 3 to 4 hours for sure. If it's a 16-mark kind of question. So probably you should know how many questions you can solve in a given day. You can make a plan for 12 hours, 13 hours, 14 hours, whatever is that you wanted to, keep, which is at your comfort. You have to ensure that you have that plan as a routine, as a habit inside you. But do not keep that hours as your target, but your target should be the topic that you're going to cover for that particular day. So ensure that because from there onwards, we both were keeping targets for that particular day. And believe me, when you are into preparation, let's say you're preparing SFM for that particular day, I'll tell you how you can include subjects inside in preparation. So if you're preparing SFM particularly for that particular day, your best day of your preparation would be, say you have in the morning you have said that what are the chapters that I wanted to cover. So today my target is that I cover security analysis and then security evaluation. If these two are the chapters that you've picked up for preparing for your examination, and you've said that okay, probably I wanted to do two valuation models today. Okay, I wanted to do dividend models, I wanted to do earnings model, and then I wanted to ensure that I finish off security analysis chapter, all type of analysis. And your best day in your preparation would be, say, what I would have ideally done is that in the morning I would have said that, okay, these are the topics that I'm going to cover. I'll write down in my preparation notebook, which I would strongly recommend you to buy. Just a notebook, which we call as preparation notebook. And then you're putting the date there and you're saying that these are the things I wanted to cover. And at the end of the day, your best day in your preparation schedule would be the day when you finish this off and you say you tick or you strike it down. Say that, okay, security analysis, all the things I've read, I've learned it. I've learned it, not read. I've learned it. How do you say you have learned it? Because many people confuse themselves that reading is learning. This is where you're not able to recollect. And let me jump on to SFM for some time and let me come back. So in SFM, you have, if you're a student who's into new syllabus, your examination structure is such that the theory questions are embedded into one of the questions. Say, for example, you have different type of questions that comes in, which are all 20 marks. You have different type of questions. In that, they can ask you, like, they can ask you 3 questions inside one question as sub questions, and one of them could be theory. So all your theory questions in new syllabus comes like this. But when you take all syllabus in SFM, you do have theory in SFM. Okay, I told you that like 80% comes into practical and then 20% is theory. That's how I wanted to break it up. And if you're writing all syllabus, you have this one advantage that your last optional questions are full of theory. So if you want, you can skip the theory part and then you can ensure that you prepare very solidly about practical. That's one approach. Okay, I'll give you multiple approach to that. But then, so which means that if you are someone who's writing SFM new syllabus, you will have to mandatorily start learning theory in SFM. You have few chapters which we can categorize as theory, and there are chapters where you have initial theory to learn and then go ahead with practical problems. So when in learning theory, I find that a lot of people make this mistake that they think that, okay, 2 things. One is they think that, okay, I read something on institute material. I probably would have put an underline, or I probably would have bought the trademark CA final student, yellow highlighter, and then I would have put a highlighter over the note. That's not learning. The learning comes. See, I'm not saying that everybody has to make a note. You see, you should try to understand your capabilities. Okay, what is that works best for you? And how do you identify what is that works best for you? You figure out, you try to explore things. And you can do that only in December and January, because you cannot start exploring what method in which you should prepare in the month of April, because May is your examination. So all the exploration types, methods, and everything should be done at the early stage. What is that I want you to do is that when you're learning theory, ensure that you're able to recollect. So say, for example, I have your new syllabus question paper. You remember this yellow pages, new syllabus question paper for SFM. Probably you're reading one of these things and you're trying to understand one question from this. Okay, so value at risk is what you're reading, and you're like, what is value at risk? And you should think in your mind, okay, I'm reading about value at risk. Okay, what could be this particular concept all about? Okay, it talks about maximum losses that can be happening on a given particular period of time. So this is what I should write in the examination. So when you're reading something about value at risk, you should be able to recollect that. You should stop reading. You just to read it and then underline does not mean you've learned. You should ensure that, okay, you're learning enough to write for 4 marks. Because there are 3 marks theory question, but then most of your theory questions are of 4 marks. So you should ensure that you're preparing so that you can recollect. So when you're reading certain things in theory, you should ensure that you close your eyes and then you're able to recollect that. And for some of you, it would be enough that you underline on your study material and then you go back to the study material. You still remember. For some of you, it might work if you write short notes separately. For some of you, it might work if you download short notes from LearnCab and then read that. For some of you, it might even work better if you prepare mind maps. You write down the main heading of the theory question, then you write down the sub points in different colors. We call it mind map, because visual memory tends to remember things faster. So you should be going back to the same books multiple times. So that's why you need to have a revision hour to ensure that you go back and then learn theory in this particular order. So ensure that you learn theory, not just read theory. Okay. The second myth is that writing both groups will make ICA value a paper differently. I've heard a lot of students asking me this particular question. I wanted to break it here. There's nothing like that. Your valuation is independent of whether you have written one group or two groups. Because I know a lot of people, a lot of students, because this is the right time for me to give this particular understanding to you. Because a lot of people who take this particular decision of writing both groups upfront, then this is the CA students graph of moving towards the examination. They initially start with both groups, I want to score a rank. Then they say that both groups, I want to score exemptions. Both groups, I just wanted to pass. One group, I just wanted to pass. One paper, exemption. Then God knows what will happen. So this is how people generally approach it, because they think that okay, maybe they should attempt all the papers in all the go. That is not necessary, because somebody had told them that they're going to get extra marks if they attempt all the papers. No, you should try to assess yourself. But definitely, I will see. I'm someone who has written all the 8 papers together. What I personally, this is my personal opinion. Other faculties would differ. Okay, but this is my personal opinion. What I felt is that you should make that assessment to yourself. Do you really wanted to take that effort of writing all 8 papers and then score a rank? Because that's the advantage that you have there, and probably you have carry forward benefits. Or you think that your examination holidays will suffice you to prepare solidly for 4 papers. Should you go ahead with that? I don't say that writing one group is a bad decision. Say for example, if you take group one, if you're thinking that you want to write group one, that those papers are going to be in that structure. You do have FR, you have SFM, you have law, you have auditing. So it is going to work in that order. You have 2 papers which are going to be really practical, and you have 2 papers which are off-subtle, which is going to be both can be mixed in and learn together. So you will lay out that particular plan. Why people say that people might get extra marks they write both groups together? They're just thinking about probably if there is moderation, and in moderating someone's paper to give extra marks, that is happening only after valuation. So valuation has nothing to do with it. Even ICA valuer will not even have any idea who's going to be the student, whether they have written both groups or one group. There is no information that is passed on to the valuer. He's going to just value it. Then after that, if there is some moderation, and moderation is a question that comes in when you prepare excellently in one paper. If you wanted to ensure that you have to always take that particular decision whether you want to write both groups or one group, and you have to take that particular decision early. I'm saying both group, if you are confident enough, you have to plan excellent. But if you think that you wanted to write both groups just because somebody told, I don't think that's the right approach. You should assess yourself what is best for you, what is the time that is available, how much time you will be able to prepare, and whether you want to include a revision. All that should be a matter that is to be considered in your preparation plan. Writing certain exam centers will make you pass. Absolutely rubbish. There is nothing like that. There is recording that is done. There is shuffling that is done. It has been sent out to different set of people. So you write wherever you want it to be, but be comfortable. There you go and write the examination. It is nothing that, okay, there are people who book centers in some places saying that, okay, there if I write, I don't believe in any of these. And then we should not focus on all of these things. You should focus on ensuring that you give your best in all of the papers. Yeah, so this is something that I wanted to discuss. Studying early morning is the best method to study. See, I personally feel that, okay, and I've read a book on why we sleep, which had given me a lot of insights on the sleep pattern of people. So the book says that there are people who are early racers and there are people who are late runners, like night owls. That is part of certain habit that has been built over the period of time. So they term it as circadian rhythm, which means that 24-hour cycle. We all have that 24-hour cycle. Some of us are very alert in the evenings. Some of us are very alert in the early mornings. So find out what is your normal rhythm, what your body accepts, and don't try to change it always. So if you are sticking on to early morning routine, stick on to that. That's good for you. So what do you think? Whether you think early morning is best or studying in the late night is best? Now, something must have you must have had something in your mind, right? That exactly is your answer, because you can only think what is best for you. Because you cannot say that, okay, there would be, see, Generally, I'm telling you this for a specific reason. Generally, there is a tendency to fancy that it is good only when you get up early in the morning and then study. It's not correct. But create a habit, create a healthy habit for you. Okay, so ensure that you prepare your schedule in such a way that either morning or evening, which one is better, that works for you. One needs to have 100% of syllabus to clear CA final examination? No. Here, I'm going to specifically tell you how that preparation plan has to be. See, many people think 100% is the goal, and I don't think that is correct because I don't think anybody has really gone ahead and then covered 100% of syllabus in any of the paper in CA final. I still believe that I have some portions of CA final low to finish. I've cleared 6 years back. Okay, so that's how CA final examinations are. Sometimes you make an ABC analysis. You know what is. So we all learned about ABC analysis, right? You know that we should see. We call it in costing. We call it Pareto analysis. See, 80% of profit in a company comes from 20% of the product. Similarly, 80% of your marks could be coming from that 20% of areas in the book, which is going to be tested in the examination, because they cannot test everything, right? They need to create 2 days examination if that's the case. But how do you pick the 20%? That's a very important question. You don't have a 20% as such in your CA final examination, but you can go in a pattern that you spend more time on the important chapters, you spend relatively less time on not so important chapters. Like say, for example, like I said, there are 5 chapters which gives you theory. But if you keep reading theory for 80% of your time allotted for SFM, then you are attacking only the lot of 24 marks. You're not even attacking probably 20% of your marks. So wherein you should spend 80% of your time attacking where those areas where they're going to mandatorily test. For example, security evaluation, mutual funds, your M&A, corporate valuation, those lot portfolio, these lot I consider it to be very important. Yeah, I have to give you, see, some of you would not have started reading about SFM. You might not have watched the lectures of mine also. So it's there on the portal. You can go ahead and then watch it. But then for you people, I have to introduce you what are the topics that is there in SFM. There has to be a method. I'll tell you what's our plan with regard to that as well. But I'm just jumping ahead so that I can give you some examples live here. So ensure that you cover the important ones first. So what happens when you're covering important ones first, even if you fail on your plan and you rush up in the end, you're rushing up on those areas which is going to be tested less in the examination. So I don't think you should cover 100%, but then you cannot be attempting 50% of the questions in the examination and then still expect an exemption. This is one mistake that most of them do, especially for paper like SFM, which came in November 2020, this particular paper, where many people, when they saw the paper and they said, no, this is a new question, this is a new question, this is a new question. But if you had enough practices, there are cases where you can actually think about attempting something. And where we generally used to say the formula for getting an exemption in SFM could be, say, you have 100 marks, and in that 60 marks questions, you answer it correctly. Okay, you are answering it correctly, 60 marks. Then about 25 marks, you are attempting. So 60 marks, you know the answer, you're going to give the answer correct. 25 marks, you can give an attempt, you don't know, maybe you're correct about 50% to 80%. Then balance 15 marks, you give a vague attempt, which we call it as you bluff on the examination. Okay, maybe you give something that relating to this because you're not very sure about your answer. You still end up scoring really well. Because this is the formula that you have. See, because 60 marks, if you write correctly answers, we should probably expect you to get 45 to 50. Then 25 marks, you're able to attempt to 80%, you should be getting another 10 to 15 marks there. And 15 marks, even if you go ahead and then bluff, you still be able to get like 4 or 5 marks from that as well, if it's theory. And that will get you above 60 marks. So what people do is that they attempt only for 60. In that, they'll attempt 40 marks correctly. 20 marks is just an attempt. So if you're aiming at attempting 60, how can you expect there to be 50 plus? So first part of scoring an exemption in an examination is to ensure that you write enough model exam. This is very important because for most of the people, 50% of them, that's a very big number, okay? They don't even write a properly planned mock test. They might have practiced enough questions, but their model examination, main examination, mid examination, everything is the main examination that they're going to write. That's not fair. You should go ahead and then get this particular feeling that okay, you are practicing questions and you're reaching at this level of okay, I'm able to finish the paper. Maybe you're writing 60% answers correct, 25%. I'm not telling that okay, you should write only 60% correct, 25% should be an attempt. No, I'm saying that even if you're going in that particular order, I'm telling you that you still be able to secure your exemption in this particular paper. Then next is, this is something that I want to talk specifically to SFM. There are people who think that their exposure towards articleship or their exposure towards mathematics is important for them to clear CA final examination, especially papers like SFM and then AMA. They think that okay, if I know maths, then probably I'm good at this particular paper. That's not correct. It's just the point that first I initially started off, which is the point of passion. If you're someone who had watched this, I know that I'm not suggesting that you take your time for preparation and then watch a series, but if you had watched Scam, the very famous Harshad Mehta Scam series, I think most of you would find it interesting. It talks about probably 50% of the words that is covered in SFM in that entire series. So keeping the drama aside, okay, the drama, the ethical question, all those things, if you keep aside, but it talks about the market. And I think the rating of that particular series is about 9, okay, which says that out of 10 people, 9 people found it interesting. And if it's a CA student, he's going to be there in that 9. So it is going to be interesting for you because if the series is interesting, you know that all those facts and figures were interesting for you. It's not that how much ever exposure you had with the finance. It's not how much exposure you had with stock trading or how much exposure you had with regard to your articleship in preparing financials of multiple companies doing valuation. No, it's all things that you can learn. Only thing you need to have that open mindset. You should read a little extra and then you should go ahead and then ask questions. Okay, probably can you tell me a little more materials where I can go through these things? I think probably you find it all in our portal, different places you can find all of these. So do not keep that myth in your mind that okay, probably your articleship is going to make all the difference in CFA. Absolutely not. What is that you're going to prepare from here and how exam focused are you is going to make all the difference in your. Now, how do we schedule from here? Okay, let's look at May 2021 examination per se. We have 120 days. You are either writing one group or two group. You cannot spend the entire 120 days. Okay, I've taken a round of number. Okay. Now, if you're making plan, probably after the session gets over today, I want you to make that plan. I want you to take that particular piece of notebook or a paper, which you can store till May 2021. Maybe at the end of that particular notebook, like I did, I'm going to tell you a very, very interesting secret. Okay. So I talked about perseverance. And I used to feel really demotivated when I was preparing sometime. And you know what I used to do? When I was just Lijil Lakshman, not CA, I used to write at the end of my notebook where I was preparing, like I used to fancy myself as CA Lijil Lakshman. And I used to read it at times. CA Lijil Lakshman. Looks nice. At least I know that the name is different, but then it's better than Lijil Lakshman. CA Lijil Lakshman is better. So I said, okay, that's a nice name to have. Probably I should prepare. So that used to give me that's something that I used to do, like write my name with CA and then just read it out and then feel like that's a good name to look at. And that used to give me motivation. So you maybe probably wanted to do the same. It's a very interesting. Then whenever you're down, whenever you think that you did not study for the entire day, you go ahead and then read it 5 times or like look at it and then try to feel that you're a chartered accountant. It's gonna make a lot of difference for you. Okay, so you have to split your days. Okay, if you're having, you need to have out of these 120 days, you need to have days split into intense preparation and revision days. You can take about, okay, so if you're someone who's gone ahead with one group or both groups, you can still take, if you have not started preparation at all, probably an 80-day schedule. Okay, 80 days would be ideal for an intense preparation. When I say 80 days, I'm not saying that, okay, you prepare the 80 days like one day, one subject. No, you can mix your days into multiple methods. Okay. You can have, see, if you're writing only one group, probably you have four subjects, 80 days to finish. You will have to go ahead with watching your lectures. You need to have preparations after that. You need to work out number of questions, but you need to have targets with you. All of these have to be a part of you. And now you need to have at least 40 days to revise, guys. And if possible, if you're someone who was already done some preparation, probably started watching the lectures and things like that. So we are coming up with the revision lectures. I'm going to tell the plans and everything soon. Revision is very important after you prepare because you need to have that recap of things. So you should split your preparation into, okay, probably I should take two-thirds of the time for intense preparation. That's when I cover study material. Please, guys, finish off study material. I know that you will have a lot of material that is coming from our faculties. There will be materials of different people that you've obtained online. Things like that would be there, but study material makes all the differences. You don't want to be in a lot where questions came directly from study material and everybody answered and you did not answer because you never went through that. You don't want to be that, right? So ensure that you go through study material. So if you're taking 80 days, probably there you have to finish off study material, practice questions, watching videos, and doing all the note making process or whatever that you wanted to do. Finish off. Then revision is when you start revising your notes, the short notes that you have made, the formula notebook that you have made, which I'll strongly suggest when it comes to SFM. So these things that you can do in the revision schedule and write maximum number of model examinations. Now, how do you schedule? Like this is something that I have done. I'm going to give you the same plan. If it's useful, you take it. You have a better plan, you go ahead with it. Okay, I'm not saying that this is the plan you should do. So in a model plan, what we used to do is that we used to divide the day into 4 sessions. I used to call it 4+1 session. You could be a person who should be early morning raising, or you could be studying extra session in the night. Depends on you. Say let's assume that your early morning, say that's your first session. So when I say 4 sessions, each of the sessions are 3 hours. Now in between you can take a break of 1 minute, 2 minutes. When I say 3 hours of session, what you have to do is that, see, especially for paper like SFM, I don't want you to take a lot of breaks in between because this requires your not disturbed. Okay, so it requires your full attention, a complete focused attention, at least for 3 hours, because 3 hours is when you have to go and sit in an examination hall. So I want you to train yourself for that 3 hours. So whenever you're sitting for studies, even though you might take a 1 minute break in between from reading and all that, but you don't get up from the chair. That's what I mean by 3 hour schedule. So in a day, if you're full time into studies, okay, if you're working somewhere and then part time studies, you will have to make the changes in your plan. But then if you're into full time studies, then early morning is your session number one. Now, this particular one session, if you're someone who gets up at like 5 o'clock, probably 5:30 to 8:30 is when you do this. Then you take your breakfast break, and then you can do your morning session. The next session is to be morning session. I've done early morning when I was in CA final, but when I was in intermediate, I used to study in the night. So it depends on what time is comfortable for you. Then, say for example, you're starting at 9 o'clock, or probably 10 o'clock is also fine. Then till 12 you do this, and you take a break, or if you want, you can do this at 9:30. till 12:30. And then you start only at the afternoon session. You start at 1:30 or 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, 1:30 to 4:30 or 5, 2 to 5, anything is fine. That's your third session. So in between you get a lunch break. That's either 1 hour or 1.5 hours, depending upon your mood. Then you take an evening session, evening break. You take a solid break in the evening. You take from 4:30 to 6 o'clock is your break. This is a long break. You want to rejuvenate. Take a bath, go for a walk, talk to your friends. But then you should ensure that you don't, you don't study enough on your schedule. Then you take the breaks correctly. Sometimes people do that. People say that, okay, no, how can I not take the break? I've already committed myself that I have to take the break. So you have a long break now. Then from there again, you do your evening session, which is say 6 to 9 or 9:30. But then one very important thing that I would like to tell you here is that I never used to have a dinner break, because I don't think dinner should be a place where you should break for an hour and then have it. Like that's only keep it for Sunday or Saturday or like any specific day. Let the dinner be a snack that you're going to take in between the studies and then get back. Then very important part of the session is called as the revision session. This is used to be evening session. This is an evening break. Okay, this is a break. Then you used to have revision session. That used to be 9 to 10 or 10:30, 9:30 to 10:30. Okay, either way, if you want to take a break in between, you can take that. Then again, you get up at 5 o'clock. You get solid six and half hours sleep. You're getting a lot of break in between. And believe me, guys, I have charted out a 13-hour plan here. This is 13 hours. And you see a lot of breaks. And this is my real plan I actually executed for my CFI. I'm just giving you the same. I'm saying that if you're not an early morning person, you get up at like 8 o'clock, you can actually add one more session in the night before the revision session. Then keep the revision in the morning 1 hour. That's also fine. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that you see all of these sessions are 3 hours. And continuously studying for 3 hours makes a lot of sense. So only thing is that you might, if after 45 minutes, if you're feeling tired, you can maybe stretch for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, but then you don't go out and then come back. So that shows that the momentum is affected. So that's what I'm trying to tell you, that you need to keep a plan like this. Then you keep a morning session, you take a long breakfast break, rejuvenate, do a morning session, which is for another 3 hours, proper lunch break, do another 3 hours of session in the afternoon, take a very lavish evening break, do another 3 hours solid session in the evening. Make sure that you don't spend so much of time for dinner. It's a snack for 10, 15 minutes. Then you do a revision session. What's a revision session? Like I told you that, especially when you're learning practical subjects and theory subjects, you need to ensure that whatever you have done for the entire day actually gets stored inside your brain. So you would have studied so many things randomly here and there, but end of the day, like especially for the beginning, we discussed about formulas being remembered. See, if you've gone through portfolio management for a chapter, which has a lot of formulas for you to remember, and you will have the concept behind it and everything, but still there are few quants formulas that we have, and we try to, in our lectures, we try to use as many terms instead of the symbols. Wherever possible, we'll try to replace the formula with the terms, because that's more easy for you to remember. And how do you remember this? So if you've studied for the entire day these formulas, at the end of the day, you need to take that 1 hour. Probably it will not take even 1 hour. So you're trying to assess what is that you have studied and whether you're able to remember. And when you're studying something, you find that, okay, you don't remember that entire thing, whatever you have spent for the entire day, you don't remember it. So then it's very important that you take this one hour of revision to ensure that you store all that you have studied. That's where you take your revision notebook. and then write down, okay, revise this, revise this, revise this. These are the problems that you find out. Then next time when you're revising again, you just have to go to the revision book because you remember so many things. So every time you should go back to a smaller book. You cannot keep going back to the big study materials that you have. You should have something called as summaries so that when you see the summary, you remember the entire concept. That's how slowly you add up to maximum. Otherwise, what happens is when you start studying from first chapter and you reach the 14th chapter, you tend to forget the first chapter because it lacks revision. So ensure that once you finish up, in here also Sundays used to be very different for us. Whenever there is a Sunday, what we used to do is that on Sundays, whenever we are studying, we used to ensure that we take a half day on Sunday to remember, to just take the revision notebooks along and to remember whatever we have covered for the day. So for the entire week. So it's very important that we cover all of those. This is one plan which gives you 13 hours of time, but then you get 4 solid sessions. And the best part is that you don't have to worry too much about the timing you specifically do, because you know that you need to ensure that you spend so much for early morning, afternoon, and then evening. So that's how you split it. So it will be easy for you to create a routine like this. Ensure that you create a plan according to your wishes, what is best for you. That you should understand and make. And you should say that, okay, when you get up in the morning, you should say that, okay, in the 4 sessions I have, which subject I'm going to study. See, I don't suggest that, if you're someone who has so much of focus and you can study SFM for the entire day, then that will be the best method in which you can finish off the subject. Okay, you go ahead and then study fully, then write an examination. Like if you're taking 20 days for SFM, finish off SFM fully for 20 days, then write a model examination. Then you know that, okay, how good you are at that particular paper. If you're not able to do that, then you can mix it with one more paper. Okay, do 2 sessions of SFM and maybe 2 sessions another paper. Or you can mix 3 papers. But then I'll strongly suggest you, if you are mixing a practical subject like SFM with another paper, do not mix it with FR or direct taxes or indirect taxes, which is going to be so much to learn for another subject as such. So you need to give maximum hours in a day for a paper like SFM so that by end of the day, you feel satisfied that you've covered so much. Okay, so if you're mix a lighter paper and a lighter chapter, like for example, auditing and SFM, it's fine because you're going to read a little bit of theory, then you're going to practice a number of questions. Okay, so I wanted to talk 2 things when it reaches the examination part. One is you need to ensure that your last day, which is the cool-off day that you get, is effective for you. What do you mean by cool-off day being effective? Because whatever you have studied for the entire 120 days of preparation, you should be capable of revising the entire thing in a single day. That's about, say, you probably get about 24 hours. So when we say 24 hours, we mean that, okay, there is one day in between gap, and there is some time that on the day of examination evening you will get, and you will get some time in the next day morning. So if you add up, maximum you can spend is 20 to 24 hours. So whatever you have studied for, probably, if you are giving 20 days for SFM to finish up, something that you've studied for 200, 300 hours, you're now going to bring it to 20 hours and then learn it or revise it again. So something that you've studied for 200 hours, now I have to bring it to 20 hours. So you should plan it ahead to ensure that you do it correctly. So how do you plan it ahead? I'll give you my set of tips here. When you are preparing a chapter, you should make some smiley faces on certain questions which you think covers a lot of aspect, and you think you should go ahead and then look into that the day before examination. When you're watching the videos, some questions the faculties would say is very important as far as the examination is concerned. And similarly, there are certain questions which are more repetitive in nature. And you would have learned some small aspect to build up to a bigger question. So the small questions are not necessary after a point because you've learned the bigger aspect of it. So ensure that you don't repeat those smaller questions the day before the examination. You need not plan it like you work out everything on the day before the examination. That is not possible. But you need to have a plan. Okay, maybe I'll do the theory the day at the night after your FR examination. And then the next full day, I'm going to use it for revising all the important chapters, which is A category and B category. And then at the night, I probably would do C category few chapters, and the next day I'm going to rush through all the formula book and then go and write the examination. Probably this could be an approach that you can do. So you need to have some notebook that you can refer on the day before the examination, or you need to at least know in the material, in the study material, what is that I have to refer the day before the examination. You should be able to brush through everything so that you don't make a lot of mistakes. So how that is going to be possible? From your intense preparation to your examination, the day before the examination, you need to have one more revision schedule for it. So from 200 hours, you don't immediately try to bring it down to 20 hours. From 200 hours, you try to bring it down to probably 8 days or 80 hours or like 40 hours. From there, you try to bring it down to 20 hours. So that's where I'm saying that the second revision should be faster. You go through everything in 40 to 80 hours of time, depending upon whether you're writing both groups or one group. And then you go to this one day before the examination where you do 20 hours. And you should plan it in that order. Like, what is that I should refer? What is that I should refer? So if you have already marked, you highlighted what is important, and you know what is to be referred the day before examination, then the main examination is going to be much more easier. Then on the day of examination, you're going to get something like this, which is your examination question paper. But then before you start writing the examination, you will be getting 15 minutes of cool off time. What you will do at that particular time? What is that you should do? You go through and read the first one. Okay, Excel Limited has made purchases. So say for example, this is where the bill rang, it's 145 and I'm started reading it. So should I read Excel Limited has made purchases? Okay. The first question, should I read full? Oh, how do I use this 15 minutes of cool off time properly? So this particular time has to be used in such that you can make the correct choices here. Now, why the choices are important, I'll tell you. Let me give you the approach towards the new syllabus paper. Then you will have a better idea on this. So if you are someone who's going to write SFM new syllabus, okay, your topics are like, we can classify those 14 chapters into this. You have theory chapters, which is going to be covered about 20 to 24 marks, which is going to be financial policy, risk management, security analysis, securitization, startup. This is the theory pool, which I'm going to call it as theory pool. Okay, financial policy, risk management, security analysis, securitization, startup. All of these are going to cover only the basics of these fields, nothing solid, only the basics, very easily understandable. You have practical load A, which I consider to be very, very important for your exam, which is something that you should mandatorily ensure that you cover this first. This is my personal approach. Okay, there are people who covers forex and derivative and then come to this, but then I believe that to get you a starting on derivative understanding and then your forex, I would rather finish off security valuation, portfolio management, mutual funds, corporate valuation, and M&A. Here, portfolio management is a little bit tricky chapter, which you could. Why am I adding that? Because once you know portfolio management, then a lot of mutual fund question becomes very easy for you. So this covers about 50 to 60 marks of your syllabus, which is your load A, which is very important for you. Then you have derivatives in forex, which is 25 marks. Then you have the C category of chapters, including some of the theory, which is international financial management, interest rate risk, IFM and IRM. So interest rate risk management. So these two are not very important. You will cover it in the last part of it, and you will understand it very easily. So these are the topics that we have. Coming back to how the question structure would be for new syllabus. So you have questions of 20 marks. So in a question paper, you will have, say, you have question number 1, which is mandatory. So basically, you have 6 questions of 20 marks, which means you have 120 marks examination. Out of that 120 marks examination, question number 1, you'll have to mandatorily write, which is going to be 3 questions. Okay, so 8. So all these 3 question sets, you can see on the last part of it, which I've written question set. You can see here. Your question set, all the questions are 20 marks. So which means you can have following type of question sets, which means that you can have 8 marks, 8 marks, 4 marks kind of a question set. 3 questions. First one would be 8 marks. Second one would be 8 marks. And third one is 4 marks. Then next is you have question set of 10 marks, 7 marks, 3 marks. That's also 20. Okay. Then you have one question which is going to be really big, 12 marks. Then 4 marks, 4 marks. That's also 20. Okay, so you can have any type of this particular question set in your 20 marks thing. First question is compulsory, which you will have to mandatorily write. Then next, out of 5 other questions, you have to skip one, which means that you need to write only 4, because you need to write only for 100 marks. Earlier, if you had written all the 5, earlier, believe me, earlier, if you had written all the 5, they used to pick the top of your marks from 4, but that is squashed. Now ICA says if you have written even the optional paper, they will take the first 4, the next one they'll not take. So even if you have attempted a bit of any questions, and if you think that that need not to be considered to be your option, then you have to cross it. I hope you're understanding on this. So you have to ensure that you don't write the optional questions as well, because that is going to take your time and you're getting no benefits out of it. So do not skip the mandatory question and then go ahead and then do that particular mistake. So your question number 1, then you have to make that choice. When will you make this particular choice? You can make that choice only when you know what is your best. You don't want to end up in a situation where you go ahead and then attempt a bad question and then in option you miss out a question that you already know, which is like a good question. So that should not happen. For that sake, what you have to do is in that 15 minutes of time that you have for the cool off time, you will have to ensure that you decide what is the order in which you're going to attempt, leaving compulsory, because compulsory anyway you have to attempt. You can think that okay, you might attempt it later, but anyway you'll have to attempt. But from there, question number 2 onwards, you will have to see which are the questions that you know, which you think you will be able to immediately write. Because in the answer sheet, the first answers that you should write, if it's solidly correct, then it sets up a tone for the valuer to know that okay, this fellow knows SFM. And those easy questions, say for example, if you find mutual funds in a mutual fund question in an examination for 12 marks, 10 marks, 8 marks, and then you think because that mutual funds is a very easy chapter and you generally have repeated questions because you have the question type, 8 to 10 question types. You finish off, you go ahead with writing answers for that type of question, and then that should be the first choice that you should take. Immediately write mutual fund, then next, and you should also see how the other options are working for you. Like I told you, if you're in new syllabus, your theory questions are a part of your main question. You don't have separate question where only all the sub questions are theory. So you can see in all the questions set, the last ones that has been mentioned there, 884, 710 3, 12 4 4, all these 4s and 3s are generally theory questions. So you have to go ahead and then learn theory as well. So you should use your cool off time carefully in this particular case. In all syllabus, the question numbers are little, the structure is a little different. You have 20 marks compulsory question, and that will be like 4 5-mark questions, which is like generally comes in. And then you have question 2 to 7, which is 6 questions of 16 each. Out of that, 1 is optional. So since it is 16-mark questions that is there, it could be 8 8, 10 6, or it could be all 4 questions in 4 marks each, which would be theory. So you have an option to leave theory and then leave those theory related chapters separately altogether. That could be a smart decision for you if you're not good at theory. And your approach towards practical questions, your presentation is going to make a lot of differences. So many cases, what people do is that they randomly start answering. Do not start answering unless you analyze the questions, and in your mind you should think how you should approach it. So your presentation is very important. You need to have, so there are certain table structures that we suggest in the examination that you have to follow. Those things you will have to practice and make sure that you follow the same structure, because your answers being in a clumsy mode could actually lose you little mark. But then is there any one right approach towards solving all practical questions? I don't see that there is any problem in you doing in a different approach than ICA's approach. You can have different. The assumptions can be as close as possible, but in a lot of cases there are multiple answers that has been there. You always have an option to contest, because these are all high level finance. You always have an option to contest certain aspect that you've learned in the examination. So you can have different set of presentation, but you should try to ensure that you present maximum information with least amount of time. So that's something that will be added by the classes that you attend and the methods that you learned during the classes. So that will add a lot to the scoring. But when you go ahead with theory, Okay. Like I already have insisted on in SFM also, if you're in new syllabus, theory becomes important now. You will have to ensure that you make short notes and then use mind mapping and then reproduce those answers. But there is no need to be in the examination, no need to be textbook copy. Okay. You need to know only the vague understanding of it. You can make your own wordings for the answers, but ensure that you pick up the important aspect of that particular understanding. You cannot be randomly bluffing. That is not suggested in CA examination. But ensure that you learn, and most of the content when you're learning theory, ensure that you learn it from institute material. Specific point I want to tell you here: for May 2021, ICA has updated a lot of. ICA has updated the entire syllabus, which means that you don't have additional chapters, but there are examples that is being updated. There are additional explanation given in the material. So ensure that you are learning from the latest material. So in LearnCab also, whatever chapters we need to make changes, we're going to make those particular changes into it. Okay, so I've already told you the ABC analysis part of how you should go ahead and then approach it, which we will discuss in detail, because I'll quickly jump to our plan. Okay, so we have recorded classes inside the portal, which you can watch my lectures on the portal, and as and when. And this time we're going to go closely with our action plan is that we provide the students with multiple modes of learning. Like I told you that you need to have an intense preparation. You also need to ensure that you have ample revision and your doubt solving sessions are live. So here in the beginning, when I was starting about talking about CA examinations, etc., I told you that this is just a beginning. This is not a session that where we are going to close about the interaction that we are going to have with the students. This is a starting thing. That is specifically why I'm not specifically talking about any chapters, because we have a series of doubt solving sessions that is being planned for our examinations in May 2021 specific. So we are going to meet. You're going to solve. You're going to start watching the lectures, the recorded lectures, and then solve the questions at your end. And on a monthly basis, in 2 weeks, once we are coming out with certain chapters, like say, for example, our next lot of discussion on SFM doubt solving would be, we are taking up chapters like security evaluation, security analysis, portfolio management. This would be one set of discussion, doubt solving discussion that we're going to have. So we will give you avenue to ask your questions early so that we can come live and then interact and then solve all those specific nuances in that particular chapters, and then try to tell you these are the approaches that you're going to do. Two ways that you can do this. One, you can finish off that particular chapter and then come back for these doubt solving sessions, or you attend the doubt solving session, get the approach, and then start those chapters and finish it off. Ask any questions that you have in the next doubt solving session. So this is how we want you to have. So your plans should be going in line with our doubt solving sessions. By the time we finish the doubt solving session, we are going to do a full live revision. Okay, so which is going to be given to you, and then you write maximum number of model examination. That's how your preparation should be like. Because see, we are not meeting you physically, but then we should ensure that the feeling that you get in a physical classroom happens in the same order for all of you. Okay, so 2020 November examination for CA final new syllabus was a little tricky. And specifically what they have done is that they have moved out of the typical questions. The questions were not very tough as such, but then they were asking certain additional aspects. So they were expecting people to know the concept a little more. So only one thing that I wanted to do additionally is that for May 2021 examination, I've already told you how we are going to approach it. We're going to do maximum number of questions. We're going to watch all the recorded lectures. We're going to prepare the study material in full, and we are going to try to understand the concepts a little more in detail so that any aspect of that particular question. So the question is there in study material. Now the question seeks a specific answer, and all the related aspect of that particular questions can also be tested in the examination. If you are someone who has written the examination, then you would know that. So there are certain concepts wherein the questions were they were trying to test on the specific aspect of the questions in the study material practice problems, but then few other additional aspects came in the examination, so which took the students by surprise, which we are going to try to solve by analyzing the questions one step ahead. That is what I want you to do in specifically for May 2021 examination, and it is going to be better than November 2020. So every CA examination, 3 examination in once, they'll pick up one paper and then try to test the student deep in that particular paper. So this is how it is going to work. And we are going to meet continuously. It's not going to be a one-time affair, like I said. So next time when we meet, we are going to have specific plans. So I have discussed only plans for CA final, and there is one more session that we are planning on CMA final students, specifically what is that we expect them to do for their examination. And then we are going to start with chapter basis. We have clubbed the chapters. We can say that our SFM paper consists of chapters which can be clubbed, like the first lot, wherein we can say security valuation, portfolio management, mutual funds. This goes in together with chapters like financial policy and security analysis. Even risk management can be clubbed into this. This can be one lot. When you're covering certain chapters, you should go in this particular order. So you cover security analysis, or you can start from financial policy, risk management, security analysis, cover security valuation, portfolio, mutual fund. This would be one lot. Then you can cover corporate valuation, M&A. Okay, so you cover this. This is an important lot. So you can answer maximum number of questions. Then you can go to derivatives and forex. Then you go to IFM and then IR. So this is how the approach of this particular paper should be like. Like I said earlier, that it's all about our mindset and our approach towards CA final examination that needs to be solidly built in for all of you. And I really, really hope that our session today had been of some help to you. Like I said, I pointed out the word grit, that anybody could be sitting back today on a Sunday evening and then think that, okay, probably I'll study as usual I'm doing. But you have made a decision that, okay, you wanted to make a slight differences and wanted to take something positive out of a session, and you made it a point to attend this one. So I wholeheartedly thank each one of you for attending this particular session, and I hope to see you further on our SFM discussion sessions in the coming months and then coming weeks. So if you have any specific questions, I could take it up at this particular point.
Thank you for giving us a good class, motivation class. Sir, my doubt is I'm from actually old student, but now I converted to I just want to have an idea of the pattern of the new question paper. Specifically, I heard that it is the volume of the. I'm specifically asking the volume of the question paper have increased. Is it so?
So if you're asking me specifically on how you compare the old syllabus, you have moved from old syllabus to the new syllabus, right?
Yep. And
So-
I'm writing my exam after 5-6 years. Actually, I'm from your batch.
Okay, that's a very long gap. But see, I don't think you will have much of an issue in terms of understanding SFM because you have taken a very long gap. So it would be more of a relearning process if you're taking it up after so much of time. But then if you look into the old syllabus and new syllabus, the chapters like dividend policy and then capital budgeting, those chapters have gone out, and then they have put in chapters which the focus of chapters have moved from the capital budgeting and dividend policy to security valuation is being tested a little more in detail. And they have updated the syllabus so that they can ask more number of questions from interest rate risk management, and then chapters of portfolio management similar to that. So those set of chapters, the portfolio, security analysis, security valuation, merger, and that I've shown it as practical note 8, that volume has increased a bit. But then if you compare both old and new syllabus, you've taken out major chunk of portion. So you don't feel that the number of topics have increased. But the benefit that students had in the old syllabus was that they had a very reasonable number of questions that is being discussed through practice manual, which Muhammad Shah you might not be able to find with the new syllabus. What IC has specifically done is they have picked up certain questions from the all practice manual and then put it into the study material. You don't have a separate practice question manuals with you. So that is something that you will have to additionally seek to ensure that you get maximum number of questions.
And also for the volume of the question paper, I'm specifically asking for volume of the question paper, the number of papers. It is increased or it is the same like old papers? I heard that there is these days they are giving a booklet instead of question paper. Is it?
That one, yes, because see, there are multiple reasons for that. One is, so I can show you what a question booklet would look like.
Yeah, sorry, sir.
So you can see this is the new syllabus question booklet, we can say. We cannot really say that the number of the volume of reading that has increased a lot. But if you specifically ask me the November examination, the understanding that you need to have on a question, like say earlier when you read, you understand it because you've seen the questions before. That has gone down a bit. So now you
Okay.
had specifically, go read the question, try to understand it. So that takes a little extra time. We had question papers where it was 16 pages. Earlier it was the last exam it was 11 pages. So that goes up and down, but the font sizes and everything has gone up as well. Like from, if you take, like say 6 years means
Yeah.
2014 at that time. So from there, if you come back, the font size has increased. So that is also one reason. So I would not specifically say the volume, the booklet has come down, but the reading time earlier we used to take has now increased. But then one advantage you have that 15 minutes of cool off time.
Sir, this doubt is not only for you, and this is for LearnCab as a whole. So, if I'm appreciating the LearnCab effort to giving us this live sessions, to interactive sessions. It is grateful for us. It is very much helpful for our studies. I'm asking the LearnCab team that if you could give us the schedules for the forthcoming live webinars early, and it's the subject wise, it would be great help for us, especially for SCMP and other DT. I gone through the DT classes before, and after that I did not find any classes. So if you could give us the schedule for its classes and live classes, it will be great helpful for us for planning our. So can you do that, LearnCab team, please?
Definitely, Mohammed. I mean, we would definitely, give you the schedule prior. So we are also working on that to give you the entire schedule for your upcoming attempts. So as like Lijil sir told that, so we would be having more schedule. Like this is just a strategy to like how to prepare for your exam. This is just a tool or to enter into your battlefield. So we will be arranging all the necessary tool, with more live classes, recording classes, and revision classes, and then mock test, everything. So we'll ensure that each and everything will be like delivered to you.
Okay, I appreciate your effort. This live classes is very much helpful for us. So please give us the schedules early time. So it will be great helpful for us for preparation. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Definitely,
LearnCab team, and
Mohammed.
thank you.
Keep your watch on the emails and the SMS from the LearnCab. You would be receiving all the schedule related things to your registered email address and the phone number.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, Mohammed. I hope to see you in the next session.
Actually, I'm from an old syllabus. So, so what books do you suggest to do for the preparation? So actually, I've done PM and also I've referred Paduka. Do you have any other books for me to suggest?
See, when are you planning to write the examination?
I'm actually planning in January.
Oh, you're taking Jan examination. Then I don't think you should go ahead with any other book. You should just stick on to practice manual. And for those students who are writing examination in January, because I was not addressing them, I was specifically thinking about May examination. So if you're specifically, let me spend 2 minutes on that. Can I go ahead with spending another 2 minutes? LearnCab guys?
Please, sir.
So if you're writing examination in January, okay, so if you're looking to write exam in January, which means that you probably have another 20 days to go ahead and then write the examination. I strongly believe that you should go ahead and then do revision on whatever questions that you have already covered. And specifically to you, Yash, if you are from all syllabus, I'll strongly recommend you go 100 times on practice manual, because practice manual questions are the ones which is going to be coming in your examination, because that's what they're going to test, because they're moving towards the specific reason why I'm telling you is that they're moving towards last set of examination for all syllabus. So they're not asking anybody to prepare additional new set of questions and things like that. So wherever you're going to refer, you're going to get the very old number of questions for all syllabus. So it is better that you stick to your practice manual questions. You be very thorough with that. And if you already have learned one additional material from, like you were referring to one of the private authors, and that is more than sufficient, because that's also work as a compilation of old questions only.
Yes.
So that itself going once more would be more better than going ahead with an additional book at this particular point in time. Yes.
No, I was just asking whether it is sufficient for
It is
whether I've done, but yeah,
It is more than sufficient.
yeah, okay, thank you.
All the best then. So people who have, a few of them have written on the chat box about CMA. We are having a separate, webinar for CMA. I've already informed that we would be having a separate session on how the strategy should be for CMA examinations. So that we will, our LearnCab team has already announced, they will announce it. So of course, for those people who have written 20 days ahead of the examination, you will have to look at our portal and then try to ensure that you do maximum number of questions at this particular point in time.
Thank you, students. Thank you, sir. Students, we have provided the link to the feedback forms in the chat box. Please fill it out. Your feedback matters a lot. On behalf of LearnCab community, I thank Lijil sir for conducting this wonderful session and helping the students with the tips and strategy to crack this paper. I would also thank all the attendees for being such great audience and to all the LearnCab team members for this initiative. Stay tuned to receive updates on webinars and other programs. Happy learning. Thank you.
Subscribe to LearnCab and hit the bell icon to get notified.